Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Mark Jesinoski. This is the Wizard Podcast, episode 34. It is Wednesday, November 25, day before Thanksgiving. So for any of you that have been listening for a while, I know there's not a whole lot of you, but for those loyal listeners, you know that I haven't been recording a whole lot in the last couple months. And for me, every time I feel like opening my mouth, I just have this sense that it's time to be silent, that it was just a time to be quiet. It was a time to be silent. I can't explain exactly why. It was just I suppose a lot of the work I've done over the years is learning to listen to myself, learning to listen to the intuition of my body, learning to listen to that deeper sense of knowing beneath my thoughts, beneath all the things that the world tells you are important to you, all the things that the world tells you you're supposed to be guided by every day, all the things that command our attention. And for whatever reason, the past couple months, I've just been in this place of wanting to be relatively silent, wanting to be in a place of practice, wanting to release and let go of a lot of things in my life that I recognize I don't need or don't want. You know, we tend to hold on to things just simply out of force of habit. We tend to define our lives by the daily rituals and routines and attachments and ideas. Pretty soon, you wake up one day and you're 44 years old and you've gone through a difficult divorce, and you take a big step back at your life and you start looking at things, and you start looking at what you have created and what you've wrapped your life around, and what you thought your life was supposed to be about, and what you thought you were supposed to strive toward, and you know what would give your life meaning, and what would give your life purpose, and what would your story be about. And I've been really unraveling that story for quite some time now, but very, very deliberately the past couple of years. And in some ways, the work of the past couple of years has culminated in these past couple months. It has, as far as my awareness, it has little to do with what's going on in the bigger picture of the world. I know that if we turn on our televisions, or you turn on the internet, that sounds funny. That makes me sound just like a child of the 80s, which I am. But we turn on these devices that connect us to the rest of the world, or at least to the rest of the plugged in world, the electronic world, the digital world. And there's all sorts of ideas and sources and rhetoric trying to tell you how to perceive the world, trying to tell you that the world is about a certain type of thinking or a certain type of being. And we get caught up in thinking that that's reality, that's what the world is about, that's what humanity is about, that's what life is about, is somehow what we are fed through the devices that we allow into our lives. Look, I have two of them right in front of me. And I think, irrespective of the experience I've gone through in marriage the past few years, as I've, grown into my life, as I have been very curious about how the world works and how people works and what motivates people, what drives people, what drives people to strive to work through suffering and continue to be a loving, kind, empathic person. What leads people to turn suffering into darkness or turn suffering into projection of suffering onto others? These are things I'm curious about. These are things that I've spent my whole adult life, maybe a lot of my youth as well, just contemplating. What drives people? What motivates people? What is truth? What is our life supposed to be about? And I know that as I've grown into myself over the years, and as I've been willing to challenge my own ideas and my own attachments and my own beliefs and my own perceptions, and as I've kind of refined that relationship I have with myself and the world around me, I'm amazed at the nuances of it. I'm amazed at the degree to which we are all telling ourselves a story about what is our shared experience or our shared reality or what the world is. And, being a clinical psychologist and an artist, I get this really unique perspective into the world. I get this really unique perspective into people. I, really spend my life being profoundly curious about people and profoundly present in a lot of people's lives. And the work I do really requires me to do my own work and to go deep into my own attachments and fears and everything that I've been working on for quite some time. And I'm amazed in these past, months. In any given day, I will get to go very deep into the worldview of someone who may find themselves on the political right. And I may go deep into the worldview of someone who may find themselves on the political left, and everywhere in between. I don't even like to look at things in a dichotomy like that, or to restrict my perception of people in the world into political ideas. There are some very powerful structures and organizations and entities out there that want us to think that way and want us to believe that way. But getting to look deep into these perspectives and worldviews, you recognize that people are profoundly similar in what drives them, what motivates them, what lights them up, what hurts them, what suffering looks like. And as an extension of my own practice and my own life and my own experiences, I feel very blessed to be able to share the space with all these different individuals. And I'm very honest with them about my journey and my walk as well. And what you realize is that either deliberately or haphazardly, more likely haphazardly as a byproduct of where we find ourselves, having been born and raised, the culture that we're born and raised into, the ethnicity that we're born and raised into, the socioeconomic status we're born and raised into, the whatever we're born and raised into, plays a major part in how we perceive the world. And as we become adults, we start to challenge our own perspectives and our own ideas and our own beliefs. And we, my mom is visiting and she's looking in the window, and here she comes, just saying good morning. And here's Lucy. So, sorry, my mom poked her head in and she gave me a big old smile. And for anyone who listens to this, once my mind starts going in a direction, I just tend to start going with it. But as we become adults, as we As we start to challenge our own ideas and beliefs, we start to decide, I'm a part of this tribe, I'm a part of this group, this is my perspective, this is what I stand for. We wrap our minds, we wrap ourselves around ideas, we wrap ourselves around different motivating factors, and we wrap ourselves around these things that we think are the truth, and we think these things really are correct. What's profound to me is I can talk to two wonderful human beings that are just trying to, work through their financial challenges, or work through their marriage challenges, or work through the challenges of being a person navigating this time and place in 2020. And I can talk to two people that if they didn't know the labels that were attached to them, or if they didn't know the worldview, they could sit down at the same table and be very connected and have a lot of commonality between them, and only become separated and divided when they start sharing ideas and beliefs. And I know ideas and beliefs are important to people. Ideas and beliefs, define a lot of people's motivations and lives and decisions. But circling back, I find myself in the past couple months in this place of stillness and a place of silence. I haven't been perfectly still. I haven't been perfectly silent. If you looked at the reality of my day-to-day life, there's lots of ups and downs. There's lots of moments of different parts of my story being triggered, different parts of my mind, getting caught up in, I'll turn on the news and I'll get caught up in it just like anybody else. And I'll have things in my life, financial things or relationship things or work things that I need to deal with as well. What I try to do every day is I try to make every day a full circle. I try to, no matter how I wake up, no matter how cranky, how tired, how depressed, how whatever I wake up, I try to set my attitude right away. I try to set my intention right away. It's kind of my policy before I get out of my bed. I want to recognize that I can point my attention and my attitude and my intention in a certain direction, and that's a choice that I can make before my day even starts. And then I'll try to do something to get my body moving. I'll do some yoga, I'll do some light workout, I'll do some stretching. I'll just get myself moving in a positive, proactive direction. And then throughout the day, all sorts of stuff is going to happen because I'm not living in a cave. I'm going to interact with 30 or so people during the week. I'm going to interact with a lot of ideas. I'm going to interact with a lot of things that I'm navigating. I have the bills. I have children. I have many things just like all of you that I have to navigate every day. And those things are going to take my mind and take my body in a certain direction. And pretty soon I'm going to find myself feeling things that aren't very pleasant at times. So I'm going to navigate that all day. And I navigate it all day by paying attention to my breath, paying attention to where my thoughts are, paying attention to where the sensations in my body are or what they're telling me, and constantly trying to look at the manifestations of my body, including what's going on up in the noggin up here, as sources of information, sources of data that have been programmed in a sense by my life experience. And I look at the sensations and the manifestations of my mind and body as a source of wisdom, as a source of information, but not necessarily as a source of truth. I don't automatically assume that just because I'm having a thought about something that thought is correct, or that I have a belief about something because that belief is correct, or that I have a sensation in my body that that sensation should be the thing that guides me, or that I should act it out. There's a big difference between noticing a thought, noticing a sensation, and taking it as a source of information or wisdom. I had to take a little break. Lucy was barking at the door. She likes to come in here. So, so throughout the day, I am going to have moments of sadness, moments of joy, moments of frustration, moments where my mind gets caught up in a certain line of thinking that may not be in alignment with my values, or may not be in alignment with my deeper good, or my deeper, what I want to create in my life. And the way I try to navigate that day-to-day experience is to bring myself back to a sort of center, back to my breath, back to a place of a quiet mind. And that's something you can learn to do almost, minute by minute, hour by hour, so that we don't have to get so caught up in whatever rhetoric is trying to command your attention. We allow ourselves to become co-opted in some ways by any number of establishments out there that would love for us to spend our time and our energy and our thoughts on them. They would love for us to consume whatever they're selling. So I'll go through my day like that, and at the end of the day, I always try to end full circle, which means no matter how I'm feeling, no matter what's going on, no matter if I'm in pain, if I'm in sadness, if I'm in happiness, I want to end each day by bringing myself back to a place of calm, back to a place of quiet in my mind. And it may not always end in a wonderful, peaceful, blissful state. I think I get annoyed or frustrated with, and this is just where I'm at. I need to own this is where I'm at in my life. But I get annoyed with people that try to present this idea that we're always supposed to be positive and happy all the time. Indeed, we can strive for that. We can practice that. Indeed, I try to practice bringing myself there every day. But I'm also a human being in a human world with human ideas and attachments and creations, and I'm navigating those things. I'm progressively refining my life in the direction of more simplicity and more peace and more joy. But I think it's unfair and unrealistic to assume that if you're not constantly in a place of positivity or happiness, that there's something wrong. So bringing myself back to these past couple months, while the world is screaming in our ear and we're being told which political candidate is less evil, and we're being told which conspiracy theory to be fearful of, or which particular, loud noise of the day we should be worried about or paying attention to. I used to get really caught up in this stuff, and I have to be careful. I have to practice setting boundaries for myself with what what I'm going to come into contact with through these devices we carry around, and what the world tries to tell us to worry about. But kind of the culmination of so much work that I've been doing in my life for a long time has just found me in this place the past couple of months of just saying, no, just be still, be silent, just try to make every day a full circle, try to start out in a place of peace. No matter what happens in the day, just try to end the day in a state of peace or a state of quietness in my mind. And I've really taken the time in the past, I say couple months, but I mean, it's longer than that. I'm just putting a number on it. Couple months leading up to this election, and just this time when I hear so many people talking about 2020 and how crazy 2020 is, and how, as if it's all bad, rather than, and recognizing it's a choice to perceive it all that way. It could easily be perceived as a paradigm shift. It could easily be perceived as a time of great change. It could easily be perceived as an opportunity to slow down, to take a good look in the mirror, and rather than act out, or rather than live in a sort of avoidance. A lot of people have gone up in their use of alcohol and drugs during this period of time, because what happens when you take away people's day-to-day habits and rituals and routines that they use to cope and that they use to occupy their mind? Well, some people freak out. There's a whole lot of people that have looked at this period of time as an opportunity to find stillness in their lives, as an opportunity to sort of assess the stories they're telling themselves and what they've wrapped their lives around, and what they consume and what they create through their consumption and through their reactions to the stories we're being told. And there's a lot of people that have looked at this period of time as a great opportunity for change, positive change. Doesn't matter what political affiliation you have or what label you carry. A lot of people have seen this as an opportunity to take a good look in the proverbial mirror of self and culture and just ask, what are we creating here? Is this our best creation? Or is this just the result of a whole lot of momentum and power and fear and injury? Another way I could look at this period of time leading up to this moment for me is doing a lot of shadow work. Going into the places of my mind that I don't want to go, taking a good look at myself and being progressively honest. How honest am I being with myself? How much bullshit am I telling myself? What am I attached to? What am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of it? Why am I attached to it? Why am I telling myself these stories? Why am I a part of this group? Why am I arguing this point? And doing the shadow work has helped me recognize that I'm a 44-year-old man living in a time and space that I have become profoundly attached to, and I have wrapped a whole lot of meaning and ideas around this time and place that I've become a part of. And I've recognized the illusion of a lot of it, that a lot of it is a creation, a lot of it is a thing that can be changed, a thing that can be adapted, a thing that we don't have to continue to do the way we're doing. And taking a big step back and being in silence, you get to observe. You get to observe yourself, and you get to observe other, and you get to observe place. And you get to see how much people perceive themselves as victims of something outside of themselves, and how many choices we all make individually and collectively that ironically co-create the very things that we're afraid of and that we feel at the mercy of, that we feel we are victims to. And I've spent a lot of time, again, because of my own story, because of my own choices, because of the momentum of my own life, I've spent a lot of time looking at what I create. What do I create with my thoughts? What do I create by the way I react to the sensations in my body? What do I create by how I react to the stories I'm telling myself in my mind? And from there, I've thought a lot about what is the best way to respond to a given situation if you are afraid, if you are perceiving that something is bad or wrong. Like a lot of people right now are looking at this particular time and place, like a lot of people have done throughout history. And it's, this is the time the apocalypse is happening. This is the time where the end is nigh. This is the time to be afraid. This is the time when, and indeed, the collective world out there, the establishments of power, the governments of the world, the organizations of the world, they may have agendas and they may have a direction they want us to go in, and they may try to manipulate us. But for me, I decided that the best possible way for me to navigate all of it is to work through fear, to work through darkness, to work through attachment, to recognize the stories I'm telling myself for what they are, to recognize that I don't need to choose to go into alignment with the stories I'm being told, no matter how loud they are, no matter how convincing they are. I don't need to choose to go into alignment with any of it. I can wake up every day, and this kind of drives me, it doesn't drive me crazy, that's an exaggeration. It's confusing to me, it's frustrating to me, it's one of those things I have to be careful not to indulge in, because it'll lead me to a place of feeling powerless, and powerlessness is what leads to depression a lot of times. A perception of powerless or helplessness leads to an experience of depression. But I see how helpless people make themselves because of the stories they tell. And that finds people separating themselves. It finds people joining different groups and joining different tribes and wanting to point the finger at some other as a source of their problems. What's amazing to me is the degree to which it's based in perception. What's amazing to me is the amount of freedom I can actually practice every day when I choose to recognize that my mind does not need to be attached to whatever. The amount of freedom I have in how I direct my attention and how I direct my thoughts and how I direct my focus and what I choose to do with my time each and every day, there's a profound amount of freedom there. And so looking at the best possible way to navigate this particular time and space that we find ourselves in, for me, I find the best way is to be mindful of what I'm becoming attached to. Be mindful of what I'm paying attention to. Be mindful of how the things I'm paying attention to are influencing my thoughts and influencing my emotions and influencing what comes out of my mouth and influencing the relationships I form with people in the world around me. And recognizing that to a great degree, that is all a choice. It's all a practice. It's all a thing I choose to practice. It's all a thing I choose to put myself in alignment with. And I didn't necessarily know where I was going with this morning, but I know that I have been feeling like I wanted to get back in this chair, and I wanted to come out of the cave, so to speak, come out of my place of solace and simply be honest with my practice and be honest with what I've discovered and what I've learned. And something I've been sharing a lot lately is, you know, we, meaning the collective we do a lot of pointing the finger. We do a lot of assuming that because we've done our homework and we've read our books and we've read our articles and we've attached ourselves to a certain worldview that we must be correct. We have to be correct, right? And then we start going about finding other people that align with the point of view that we've attached ourselves to. And then the algorithms written into the devices we use are designed to even enhance and magnify that. Pretty soon we find ourselves angry and afraid. And we find ourselves collectively living in fear that we're about to turn on each other, that some big bad thing is about to happen. Indeed, it may happen, but it will only happen if we allow it to happen. It will only happen if we choose to co-create it. It will only happen if we choose to respond from a place of fear, from a place of division, from a place of separation. So how many excuses are you making for yourself today? How many stories are you telling yourself about why your life is the way it is or why the world is the way it is? Recognize you have a lot of freedom in how you choose to practice. You have a lot of freedom in how you choose to put your thoughts together into a story and how you choose to communicate that to others, and how you are part of the co-creation of the very things that you're afraid of or that you feel a victim to. And maybe the best way to deal with that is to be mindful of how you're living your life, to be mindful of where your mind goes when you get out of the bed in the morning, to be mindful of directing your attention, to be mindful of what you become attached to throughout the day and what triggers you and what angers you and what frustrates you and what finds you being part of the co-creation of all things that we're all afraid of. I really enjoy sharing this space with all of you. I know that there's certain people that listen to this that I'm very close to, that I love very much. I know there's certain clients that listen to this that I care about and that I've developed really good relationships with. And, thank you for taking the time to stumble through this with me. Thank you for taking the time to be patient with my morning mind. And I hope you can just slow down a little bit and that you can listen to your breath and that you can notice what your mind is telling you and notice what your body is telling you, and that you can be curious about why your mind and body are speaking in the particular way that they are, and that maybe you can start to recognize the difference between the witness beneath it all, your observing self beneath it all, your soul beneath it all, and the manifestations of this beautiful vessel that we are living inside of. That this beautiful thing is capable of great intuition and great creation and great love, unless we allow it to be taken over by something else. Be mindful of what you consume and how what you consume manifests in your mind and body and in your relationships and in the world around you. We have a great potential for creation. we also have a great potential for destruction. We are all individually capable of playing a major part in that process. Living in fear, living in reactivity, living in negativity, it's all part of a creation. Living in love, living in patience, living in the breath of the moment, being mindful of what you want to create and how you want to practice each day, that's going to have a major ripple effect in the other direction. Other people are going to see you. Other people are going to feel you. You're going to notice that in your own life. So you probably have a lot more ability to impact the world around you than you realize. You've just been told you're small. You've been told you're limited. We've been told to think all the time. Our minds and our bodies have been taken over in a lot of ways by a whole lot of ideas and beliefs and rhetoric and emotions that are not our highest self. They're not our greatest self. It's time for me to hit the pause button and go to work. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for listening. This is Dr. Mark Jesinoski. This is the Wizard Podcast, episode 34. Take care.